recently there have been a bunch of articles about how teenage Gen Z high school boys have been trending conservative, and I'm so not surprised because, for instance, when I went to primary school, I was liked by most of the teachers, and it was simply because my behavior was more on the feminine side. I was quiet, more attentive, and for instance, when there was this big recess from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. All the boys went down to the schoolyard playing soccer together, and I was the only boy who joined the girls upstairs in a choir class. So my behavior that resembled more that of a girl was apparently more approved of by the teachers. Not saying this is a good thing, just explaining what I experienced because, for instance, there was one day, one of these days, where all the girls got a day of school and were introduced to job fields that are male dominated. And as a result, I was pissed about that because most of my friends were girls, and I was like, why am I left behind in school just because I'm a boy? Why aren't I? Why don't they show me job fields that are atypical to my sex? Because back in the day when I went to primary school, there wasn't like the equivalent day for boys. And the other thing is, I was already smarter than these feminist activists because I was also thinking, why is it a problem when a job field is male dominated? In the end, shouldn't it be more important that people who are interested in a specific job field should do that job because then you get good results. We aren't robots. Since when have things been 50-50? What do we gain when a job field is 50% women and 50% men? Dumb. And because all the teachers went away with the girls that day, we got a substitute teacher nobody respected. I knew her from before, but because I was pissed off on that day, I also didn't really wasn't attentive in class. I didn't participate. I was constantly talking to the boy next to me that was sitting on the same table as me. And then the teacher approached me and was like totally shocked, and she was like, "What? You too?" And I was like also shocked at her reaction. Now I know why, because for instance there's this book called The War Against Boys, written by Christina Hoff Sommers, where she writes about how boys suffer academically, and one of the reasons for that she mentions is that boys in the school system are treated like defective girls. And I'm evidence for that, as I just explained. As long as I was acting more like a girl, I was liked by the teachers, but the moment I was acting more like a boy, I was hated on. For instance, there's research that shows that boys are graded worse just for being boys, graded worse than girls just for being boys. And the researchers found out that it's because girls raise their hands more often, boys have trouble waiting for their turn to speak, and boys are less likely to listen. And here's the problem you feminists and leftists make. You think that gender is a social construct, and you think that boys have been socialized that way, like for instance, having trouble waiting for their turn to speak and so on. But this is just like I said in my last video, you always say gay people are born that way, it's natural. I agree. But why is it then so hard to understand that boys and men are also born that way? Being born with masculine traits is natural, and like having trouble waiting for your turn to speak and not lifting your hand as often as girls in class, that is just a trait that is more common in boys. It is natural, they are born that way. And they noticed that. I noticed that back in the day, and when boys notice that they aren't liked in the school system for who they really are, like their natural behavior is criticized or not approved of, and they are, as in that book from Christina Sommers, they are treated like defective girls. Is it so surprising that after generation and generation, at one point a generation of boys will not like play along anymore and they will trend conservative? Like even I, who have benefited from that system, is getting annoyed by that because I see the hypocrisy. You always say you're for equality, but with your denial of nature, biology, and science, you mistreat boys. Is feminism for revenge, which I don't understand either, because if you would do your research, you would notice that back in the day, men and women both had their sacrifices to make. Just saying. But here's the thing: you basically, it looks like you want to have revenge on boys and men and masculinity, and at one point boys wake up to that and don't want to be leftists anymore. They don't want to join feminism, which is basically leftism. So is it so surprising that they trend conservative these days?